For over 15 years, roughly 2/3 of my entire life, I've been addicted to games like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Apex Legends, and most recently, Valorant. Not only have I spent thousands of hours grinding these games competitively, I've also spent thousands of literal dollars spending money on skins, battle passes, loot boxes, and other useless piece of microtransactions. And you know, the worst part isn't even all the time and money I've lost playing these games. It's that after all this time, I'm still dog shit at every single one of those games. When I graduated from university, I told myself that enough is enough.
It's time to stop!
No matter how much I tried, I was never gonna be the best jungler NA. No matter how much I practiced, I was never gonna be as cracked as Shroud. As such, I decided that it was finally time to quit. And the first step to quitting was admitting that I have a problem. And that's partly why I started a YouTube channel. I wanted to motivate myself to play other kinds of games that weren't part of the live service hell. I didn't want to be part of the endless grind anymore. And for a time, I thought it was going pretty well. However, we all know that going cold turkey is easier said than done. And sadly for me, things took a turn for the worse. And it all started when my coworker asked me to play TheFinals.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Now, I don't know if I've just been living under a rock over the last couple of months, but I practically heard nothing about TheFinals when it first came out. If you didn't know, TheFinals is a free-to-play competitive first-person shooter developed by Embark Studios. When my coworker asked me to play with him, I was hesitant at first. I knew next to nothing about the game, and after learning it was published by Nexon of all companies, my expectations were pretty low coming into it. And honestly, I was really hoping that the game would flat out suck. I mean, for God's sake, I just didn't want to get addicted to another live service game. But after finishing the tutorial and jumping into my first game, I knew almost immediately that I was gonna relapse. Because, to most everyone's surprise, TheFinals is incredibly fun to play. When I played TheFinals for the first time, my friends asked me what my first impressions were about the game. Aside from telling them that it was good, I also told them that TheFinals plays like Apex, and it looks like Battlefield. For one, every single match in TheFinals, regardless of game mode, is played in teams of 3. Although by the time I'm recording and editing this video, they just added a solo queue mode for all the solo players out there, so there's that, I guess. But anyway, unlike Apex, which is a hero shooter, TheFinals is class-based, making you choose between 3 classes to play as: light, medium, and heavy. And each class will determine what kind of weapons, gadgets, and specializations you can run. Now, the movement in TheFinals feels very similar to Apex in terms of dashing, sliding, and the sheer verticality of the levels and gunfights itself. Whether you're using the Octane jump pads, the Pathfinder grappling hooks and ziplines, or the numerous ropes and ladders to maneuver from floor to floor, its quick and responsive movement makes the gunfights and engagements intensely exhilarating. To me, TheFinals is very reminiscent of Apex during its most exciting moments. I also like how each round is significantly shorter, with you spending way less time ratting, gatekeeping, and moving from point to point like you do in Apex. Instead, it's replaced by fast-paced combat with little to no downtime, bringing you right into the action within seconds of a round starting. Likewise, the environmental destructibility is very similar to Battlefield, which makes sense considering that Exodice employees help make the game. For the most part, a lot of the competitive FPS I've been playing doesn't really feature destructible environments. So you could imagine my shock when my team and I, being holed up inside a single room defending the cash out, falls straight to the floor as an enemy team blows us the f*** up. That very moment cemented to me the most important rule to remember while you're playing this game. You can blow up virtually anything and everything in TheFinals. Whether you're using the breaching charge as a light build, the explosive mine as a medium build, or the C4 as a heavy build, it feels as though the possibilities are endless when it comes to blowing up and destroying the battlefield, creating new routes as an attacker and denying openings as a defender, and finally being given the option to mold the environment to your advantage. Now, I'm obviously not making these comparisons to talk shit about Apex or Battlefield. If anything, TheFinals takes positive aspects from both and it integrates it into a wholly new and fresh experience, and that's really what I appreciate about TheFinals. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, nor does it drastically innovate in the competitive FPS genre. Instead, it doubles down on the fun arcadey side of action shooter video games, leaning into its game show-esque aesthetic, setting it apart from its more serious competitors in the competitive FPS market. Like I said earlier, I knew immediately that this was going to be my kind of game. I think my absolute favorite thing about the finals is that the gunplay feels extremely good. And this is purely from a subjective, you'll just have to trust me on this kind of feeling. I play on keyboard and mouse, and the process of aiming, tracking, and shooting guns in the finals is tight, responsive, and incredibly satisfying. Now, as a disclaimer, 90% of the time I play as a medium build, running mainly the FCAR, though I do switch to the AKM sometimes when I feel like my aim is absolute garbage. As such, I don't have much experience using the other weapons, let alone the weapons from the other two classes. But from my limited experience playing the game, it's just way too much fun beaming players 100-0 with the FCAR that I can't not use it, you know? As for the gadgets, I'm still experimenting with what works well for me. But for now, I stick with the Goo Grenade for blocking off entrances, and I switch between the explosive and gas bind depending on my mood. And finally, I go between Healing Beam and Guardian Turret for a specialization, depending on our team comp. And that's pretty much my setup. I definitely want to try playing more light or heavy in the future, but for now, especially since I'm relatively new to the game, I want to get a good grasp of medium first before I change things up. After choosing which class you want to play, you then have to choose the game mode. At the time of recording, there are currently 3 game modes, and plus 1 with the solo one, but anyway, there's Quick Cash, Banquet, and Tournament, with the latter featuring a ranked and unranked version. Quick Cash is probably the best game mode to start out with, especially for beginners. Like the name suggests, Quick Cash is the shortest and most casual mode out of the 3. It introduces the core gameplay loop in a 3-team lobby, showing you how the cash out works and what you should be doing in order to win a round in the finals. It's what I started out with, and it's what I'd recommend you play first if you're new to the game so you can learn the basics. Banquet, on the other hand, is the game mode that I play the least. It's a 4-team lobby that emphasizes individual play the most out of any game mode, rewarding you for each kill you get. It's definitely the most chaotic mode, and personally, I found it the least fun out of the 3 so far. And last, but certainly not least, Tournament is the premier game mode in the finals. It features either 16 or 18 lobbies, depending on whether it's ranked or not. And it's a bracket-style tournament where each round, 4 teams will play to see who can cash out the most money, similar to Quick Cash. The 2 teams with the most money when time runs out will qualify and move on to the next stage of the tournament. And this continues into the finals, where the 2 best teams will fight it out head-to-head to finally determine who's the winner. But despite my overwhelming praises for the game so far, that doesn't mean that it's immune from any criticism. Because it's a competitive live service game, there will always be lingering balance issues that the player base will have their own subjective opinion of. And I, for one, am not good enough at this game to even tell you what's OP and what's not. Is the light class truly underpowered? I don't know, man. Getting tased and styled on by Genji mains over here is probably the most frustrating experience I've had playing the finals. Is the heavy class too OP? I'm not too sure. When I play as a heavy, I get 100-0 by light builds, but when I'm fighting against one, they seem completely unkillable. But hey, skill issue aside, the finals does have one major downside to it, and that is its use of AI voice work. I distinctly remember queuing up with my friends one night, and I made a comment that I really liked how the in-game casters would commentate what was happening in the middle of the game. Now, you could probably guess how shocked I was when my friend told me that all the voice work is essentially AI generated. My jaw literally dropped in disbelief to what I was hearing. Forbes' Paul Tassi remarked in his article that the majority of the public is probably not going to notice this use of AI in any meaningful capacity. And my ignorance is a prime example that he is absolutely right about that. Using AI in modern media is a highly contentious topic, and it's only going to get more controversial the better that AI gets. Now, AI has recently become so good to the point that it's getting really hard to distinguish between something created by AI and something created by a genuine human being. As a creative, of course I'm going to lean toward wanting to restrict the use of AI, especially when it comes to thousands of people losing their jobs because a robot with machine learning aims to replace the very people in the industry it's learning from. It's a scary future to think about, and it's only going to become a bigger issue in the future, and that's why there's so much pushback against the finals, and rightfully so if you ask me. In response to these criticisms, Embark Studios tried to reassure us that making games without actors isn't an end goal for Embark, and that the voices generated by AI for the finals are based on a mix of professional voice actors and temp voices from Embark employees. In my humble opinion, that just sounds like a bunch of bullshit. Like, okay, you hired voice actors, but you couldn't be bothered to hire them for the full position because it's just cheaper to generate text-to-speech voices. Ultimately, it's just a cost-cutting measure for companies in order to maximize their profits, undermining the livelihood of, for example, voice actors that are slowly but surely being replaced by AI. And that's just the reality of AI and why it threatens to disrupt the creative industries.
There is no creative decision why you would want AI over a normal human being, except for if it was to cut costs in some way or advance the tech in one way so that it would be more beneficial in future. AI can't unionize. That is also a great point.
Now, I just realized that I went from absolutely raving about the finals to ending this video on a very sour note. But hey, it is what it is. I can't love this game and recommend it to you without telling you about its downsides, especially if I'm made aware of such issues already existing. In the end, I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't support. If the fact that the finals using AI puts you off from playing the game, then all power to you. But if you're more like me who recognizes the flaws in Embark's business practices, but still wants to play and enjoy an honestly well-made product, then I'd say go for it. Who's to say what video game you can or can't play? Especially if it's from some random dude like me on the internet. Now, a part of me thinks that my love for the finals is an overreaction. That this is just a honeymoon phase, and the more I play, the worse I'll feel about the game. And that's pretty much how I expect live service games to be, and the finals is no exception to that rule. There's a reason why I don't play CS, League, Apex, or Val anymore. At least I don't play them seriously. That means no more competitive and no more ranked. If you catch me playing any of those games, it's because I'm playing them not to get good, but instead to have fun with friends. I'm past that point in my life that I can now finally say that I tried my best to be good at games, but sometimes it's best to know when to quit, and that it's okay to come to terms with the fact that I just suck at games and there's nothing wrong with that. I know I jokingly said earlier that I'm gonna get addicted to the finals, but truthfully, I don't think that's gonna happen this time around. For once in over a decade, I don't crave that competitive grind anymore. Spending all day all night complaining how bad my teammates are, going on a 10-game losing streak, and losing my mind over something as trivial as playing in low elo. Maybe it's because I'm getting older now. Maybe it's because I just finally started working a full-time job. Or maybe it's because I just want to do literally something else, something entirely different, something new. That finally, it's time to move on to bigger and better things with my life. And while I figure out whatever that may be, I hope you come along with me on my journey. My name is Andre, and as always, I just want to say thank you for watching.
Will claim victory.
Scotty set the scene perfectly.
Oh,
Remember,
bro.
strong is key.
Oh, what the
Guys!
what is it? I didn't know where the hell.
Nerves and skill from here. The socialites are knocking at the
What the
door.
fuck is this game? Bro, this map is
This way, this way!
There.